Hi there. So today I'm going to read Chapter 6 from Blue Blood, True Blood by Stewart Swerdlow, which is a book that I read Chapter 1 of the other day in a video. I started rereading this book after I read Chapter 1, and that's why I wanted to read Chapter 6, because this goes into how shapeshifting happens. And according to a friend of mine that was a higher up in the Australian Navy that's retired now, he swears that the information in this book is exactly what they were taught in special operations. This is the closest thing he has ever seen written down to what they were taught. I don't know about that, but I do know that it resonates on a deep level. So, let's read Chapter 6. If I can get to it. The inner Earth provided a subterranean locale for the reptilians to regroup and formulate plans to retake the surface. At this point, the reptilians were completely cut off from their home in the Draco constellation. Their spaceship, the Moon, was in human hands. They were alone, isolated on a now hostile planet. They needed to defend themselves. They developed a plan to insidiously retake the surface by blending their genetics with the genetics of the surface humans. Because the human prototype already had reptilian genetics, it was easy to access the mind pattern. The reptilian frequency was already established in the brainstem, as well as the reptilian brain section of these hybrid humans. The population of Sumer was chosen as the starting point. These humans were primarily descendants of the Martian, Maldekian, and Lyran refugees. The reptilians have a preference for the genetics of blonde-haired, blue-eyed people whose mind patterns and genetics are so easily controlled. They abducted members of the ruling classes, including political leaders. Using these humans, they began a new hybridization program that took several generations to perfect. Their goal was to reach a human-reptile genetic 50-50 split. This would produce a human-looking reptilian that could easily shapeshift from reptile to human, then back again. Shapeshifting was accomplished by simply concentrating on the genetics the hybrid wished to open or lock up, whatever the case may be. For this program, the reptilians engaged the help of the Syrians, who had the technology to implement such a program. The Syrians knew a lot about genetic alterations and mind programming, which they freely shared with the reptilians. Once the hybridization program was complete, the Sumerian leaders were now shape-shifting reptilians. The new reptilian hybrid became the elite of that culture. Their blood, because of the increased reptilian DNA, contained more of a copper content. Since copper-based blood turns blue-green upon oxidizing, these reptilian hybrids were called blue bloods. The blue bloods quickly realized that with a 50-50 human-reptilian genetic split, it was necessary to intermarry to maintain the 50-50 split bloodline necessary to shapeshift. When the split increased too far on the reptilian side, shapeshifting became difficult and holding human form became impossible. In these cases, it was discovered that the ingestion of human hormones, flesh and blood, allowed the reptilians to maintain the human form. Human form was necessary to maintain to avoid scaring the population, which was now not accustomed to the reptilian form. Control of the masses was easier when the orders came from a humanoid. The reptilian format was kept to religious icons and legends. The statues of their gods and goddesses reflect the reptilian influence, even showing a female reptilian holding a hybrid baby. The shape-shifting reptilian blue bloods asked the Syrians for help with the daily maintenance of their human forms. The Syrians determined that feeding the hybrids human hormones and blood in an altered animal form would be the easiest way to do it unnoticed by the population. The sacrificed animal used by most Middle Eastern people was the wild boar, so the Syrians chose it as the basis for this new hybrid animal. Human genetics were mixed with those of the wild boar to create the domesticated pig. This animal was served daily to the blue bloods as a method of temporarily maintaining their human form until they could use an actual human in a sacrificial ceremony. Because the domesticated pig is a combination of human and animal genetics, eating it is a form of cannibalism. This explains why Hebrews considered it unclean to eat. This is also why the pig is considered to be the most intelligent animal on earth, why pig skin can be grafted directly onto humans' burn cases, and why pig heart valves can be used in humans with little difficulty. Cancer drugs and other chemicals are often tested on pigs before humans. The domesticated pig frequency, or group mind, is the perfect vehicle for animal species to enter before entering human form on their evolutionary progression. In many respects, pigs can be considered a form of humanity. To a lesser degree, the same is true about cats. As time progressed, the civilization of Sumer declined and transformed into other cultures. Vast migrations from Sumer to other locations in Central Asia occurred. The migrating peoples took their blue blood leaders with them, as they were their royalty and kings. The Sumerians became known as the Sum-Aryans, or just Aryans. They spread out across Asia into the steppes of Russia and into the northern Indian subcontinent. In India, they encountered the dark-skinned Dravidians, who were reptilian remnants from Lemuria. The Dravidians were driven to the central and southern parts of India, while the Aryan hybrids took control of the north and into the foothills of the Himalayas. The Aryan leaders, all blue bloods, became the sultans and rajas of the legend and history. Sumerians also created Babylonia. The Sumerians also migrated to the area known as the Caucasus region, where the Khazars developed. From the Caucasus region, the blue blood kings and their people spread west toward Europe, developing into the Franks, Cambrians, and Teutonic nationalities. These nationalities were also being manipulated by various alien cultures like the Antarians, Arcturians, Aldebarans, Talsetians, and other remnants of the Lyrans, such as the Atlans. The Atlans located here eventually became the Celts. To backtrack for just a bit, I had said in a previous chapter that the descendants of the reptilian hybrid Sumerians went into Central Asia and the Middle East. They mostly established themselves in the Caucasus Mountains and became the Khazars. From here, they spread west towards Europe, ceding the national identities for the Vikings, the Franks, the Teutonic peoples, and the Russians. Keep in mind that when Atlantis sank, some of these refugees went to Western Europe and developed into Celts. Some went to Greece and others into the Italian peninsula. These peoples were here before the hybrids moved in. It was during the interim time period from the destruction of Atlantis until the Sumerian descendants moved in that other alien groups started to add their genetic mix to the pot and develop individual cultures based on their home worlds. These blue blood leaders also infiltrated the Middle Eastern peoples such as the biblical Canaanites, Malachites, and Kittites. At the same time in Egypt, the Syrians were reorganizing the Atlantean descendants there, known as the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, with some green-eyed, red-haired people among them. The Phoenicians colonized the coastal Middle East and the British Isles. They even colonized parts of the northeastern North American continent all the way to the Great Lakes area. Some of their minds and writings on stone tablets can still be found in the woods of North America. The Syrians were also genetically creating the ancient Hebrews. The Jewish people are actually a combination of these genetically manipulated Hebrews and the Sumerians. These Jewish people were then released into the Palestinian territory. The name Palestine comes from the ancient people, the Philistines, who were actually Phoenicians. All of these mixed in the coastal plains of Palestine and created a new religion based on sacrifice and an avenging alien controller that they called God, or Elohim. Similarly, when the Aryans mixed with the Dravidians in India, they created the Hindu religion, which is actually a recreation of the reptilian seven-tier hierarchy. The caste system of India is a direct copy of the reptilian division of function. At the same time that all of this was going on in Western and Central Asia, the Regalians were developing the remnants of Lemuria who escaped to the coast of Eastern Asia. The Regalians were a human civilization that was controlled and eventually assimilated by the reptilians. The Regalians assisted the inner Earth reptilians in developing a hybrid that included Regalian DNA. The Regalian reptilian hybrids set up dynasties in what is now Japan and China that developed independently of their Western cousins, which is interesting because I have always said that Japanese and Chinese people were extraterrestrials. In their mania for control, the reptilians used the various races that donated DNA to the original human project. They fastidiously monitored these related sections of hybrids to determine which was best suited for overall control and which for subservience. All the hybrids could be controlled through the reptilian brain that hooked them into reptilian mind patterns, but some were more controllable than others. In Europe, the blue bloods insidiously took control of the various tribes and groups, becoming their kings and royalty. They infiltrated the Arcturian experiment, called the Etruscans, and started to create a new global empire through the Romans. These European blue bloods then entirely eliminated the Antarian experiment in Greece and instigated their plan for globalization through the Roman Empire. The reptilians even offended the Syrians by infiltrating the Egyptian experiment and implementing their religion there. The reptilian hybrids became like the endometriosis of the known world, slowly growing into all areas and creating control through the blue blood system. So, that's that chapter. It's interesting how they shapeshift, and I can see that, and I've heard that Princess Diana was needed to inject into the royal family because they were having trouble maintaining form, and that makes sense. It's called like molecular something, I don't remember, but when they ingest the DNA that way, and it helps them maintain their shape. I don't know. It's interesting. I definitely think that there's human DNA in a lot of the food that we consume as well, but that's another matter. And if you actually closely study the Bible, God is described as a reptilian. Psalms 18 is a really good example of that. So, kind of not surprised that that this book says that it is a reptilian creation. I just did a video. I feel that the Draconians and the reptilians is who runs this realm. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.